This session will continue with the theme of project governance, but the perspective will be towards the key documentation which is required to establish the governance environment and some of the tools and techniques which are applied usually by senior managers to ensure that their views and their perspective is being taken into account when the work of the project continues.
The first document produced in the project is the project charter. While its contents may vary greatly from organization to organization, the purpose of the document remains constant. That is, the project charter provides the project manager with the authority to begin work on the project and to begin allocating resources or spending money to undertake the work of the project. Generally, it's a short document issued by the project sponsor, and its importance is to establish that there is indeed a project to be undertaken and a project environment to be adhered to. It is a common view that the project does not formally exist until the project charter has been approved by the sponsor. The contents of the document will vary in terms of detail, but the information portrayed is generally the same. The project charter is intended to give a high-level overview of the reasons why the project is started in the first place and its overall objectives. So high-level information such as the original estimate of the budget and the risks which are likely to need to be managed, as well as the overall objectives and the outlined scope, will be in the document. However, the document is often very short, less than 1 page in length, although in some organizations the document is considerably more detailed and takes significantly longer to produce. Regardless, the purpose of the document is the same. It's to transfer the authority to implement and manage the project from the sponsor to the project manager. Like the project charter, the other documentation must be approved and signed by usually the project sponsor before the work can begin to deliver the contents of the document. This means in terms of governance that there is an approval and authorization process for the documentation and the starting of work, and there is a reference of the most current and up-to-date version of what has been agreed. In terms of scope for the project, the starting document is called the Statement of Works, and it provides a narrative description of the content of the project and its outputs. It's likely to refer to strategic plans and business objectives and reasons for doing the project as part of its content. The business case will contain the information about the business needs and why this project will satisfy those needs, and also a cost-benefit analysis to demonstrate that the investment in the project is going to provide some sort of financial or other return on that investment. At its core, the business case is purely a comparison between the costs of executing the project and the benefits which will be realized once the project is complete and the outputs go into operation. There may be some market analysis. There will certainly be some discussion of how the stakeholders will be rewarded once the project is completed. The business case does not always contain information about benefits in financial terms. For example, the public sector would not expect to make a profit or save costs based on every project they deliver. Some of the benefits will be non-financial, but still valid. The business case will be approved by the project sponsor and will be referred to throughout the life of the project as a benchmark and reference point for governance, so that decisions can be made in the event that circumstances change while the project is underway. A project team will be assembled, and it's important that every member of that team understands the role that they have been appointed to for that particular project. This slide shows the Prince2 organizational team. There are similarities between Prince2 and other team structures, but this is used to show the potential for the different roles that could be applied. And these roles will be discussed in future parts of the course. There needs to be a decision maker, and that could be a project sponsor, or it could be a group of people who are assembled as a project board to include other stakeholders on the decision-making body. The project manager, with potentially a project office or project support to help, will undertake the day-to-day activities of coordinating and managing the work. Specialist teams will do the technical work, And there are other roles which can be appointed, such as project assurance, whose role is to check that the project is progressing in accordance with the plans, and the change authority, whose role would be to make decisions about potential changes to the scope of the project. Regardless of the team structure, it is important that all members of the team understand their role and who they report to and communicate with within the project environment. This table shows the potential for scaling the team of a project based on the complexity or scale of that project. Although the table refers to the Prince2 organization structure, the approach can be taken for any team. In terms of governance, this means that the appropriate people are allocated to the relevant projects, and that presumably the most experienced and senior project managers and their teams are assigned to the most complex and risky projects. The project team can, of course, assign specific roles that are deemed to be necessary for the governance or the smooth execution of the project. Although the names may change from industry to industry and between organizations, some ideas for the roles that might be applied to governance would include a risk manager who would be able to potentially look at the aspects of risk relating to the project and also compliance with corporate risk management standards. There may be a program or project accountant, a design authority, or a lead engineer perhaps, whose role would be to approve the designs technically and also to approve changes to those designs if they were warranted. And there could be specific expertise around benefit realization management or procurement management or contract law, which may help the team to comply with corporate governance and also legislated requirements. Particularly in the instance of a large team and a large project, it may be beneficial to create position descriptions for the team. The position description, or sometimes role description, is a relatively simple, short document which advises the individual what their role is and what their duties are. Included in this would be the chain of communications to other levels of the team so that everybody understands where their instructions come from and what parts of the team they can provide information to. Although it may be deemed unnecessary for small teams and for small projects, the role descriptions can be very useful when dealing with a large number of people who have not worked together before and easing them into the team clearly and quickly so that there's minimal disruption, particularly in the early stages of the project. The project management plan is a key reference document for the project team. The development of this document is a process which is undertaken early in the project. However, the document needs to be maintained through change control as the project progresses. Project management plan must be approved by key stakeholders and therefore forms part of the governance of the project. The project management plan contains all of the information regarding how the project will be managed and controlled and how reporting will be undertaken as the project proceeds. It will change over the course of the project, but it will be approved by key personnel and will be maintained through change control to ensure that all additions and amendments to it are approved by the appropriate people. It will contain information about the baselines that the team will work to, deadlines and milestones, but it will also contain information regarding how the team will act and respond to different situations and scenarios. It is a set of guidelines for the team to follow. It should be a comprehensive document, so ensuring that all of the potential issues have avenues to allow them to be resolved. The project management plan will contain the three important baselines, but also what are known as the subsidiary plans. These subsidiary plans are plans for individual elements of the project and form the guidelines and instructions to the project management team. Each of the plans may be slightly different based on who needs to be involved and who has the authority to make decisions regarding that particular element of the project. Hence, there are so many of these plans in place. Many of them can be reused from previous projects, thus reducing the amount of time and effort required to develop them. However, it must be clearly understood that there may be subtle differences in the authority and the stakeholders who need to be involved in each of these elements, so care must be taken when assembling the project management plan. Tolerances are the permissible deviation from a plan without the need to report that deviation to the next level of management up. As such, the tolerances define the designated authority of each role within the team, particularly the project manager. And as the project progresses, the sponsor or the project board would have the authority to set the tolerances for each stage. As long as each stage progresses and is forecast to be complete within the tolerances, the project manager would have the authority to make decisions within that stage or phase. However, as soon as the forecast is to exceed those tolerances, project manager must report to the next level of management. Tolerances may be set for time and cost, as well as quality, scope, benefits and risk, although the most commonly applied tolerances are time and cost. The concept of setting tolerances rather than specific targets is to allow the project manager, and to a lesser extent their team, the opportunity to make decisions within certain parameters and constraints. So diagrammatically, considering only two of these tolerances, cost and time, instead of aiming for a very small target, the project manager is able to deal with situations as they arise without reference to a higher authority, as long as the stage or phase will be completed plus or minus 1 week of the scheduled target dates, and between plus 15% and minus 5% of the estimated cost. This gives the team the opportunity to respond to situations and take charge of the project environment, but does not allow too much leeway that makes the project sponsor or project board uncomfortable with losing control of the progress of the stage or phase or the project itself.